Artificial intelligence is doing more computing work today than at any point in history, writing code, predicting weather patterns, and driving cars. But underneath every prompt you type is a physical infrastructure that requires an immense amount of electricity to function. Training and running large language models requires facilities exactly like this. Acres of tightly packed server racks running 24 hours a day, pulling gigawatts of power just to process the billions of parameters necessary to answer a single query. All of that localized demand is putting intense pressure on the physical grid. Local utilities are now struggling to generate and transmit enough electricity to keep up with the data centers rapidly expanding in their backyards. We are hitting a physical wall. The current method of simply building larger data centers and demanding more power from the grid cannot continue indefinitely. The root of this massive energy drain actually goes back decades, directly to the foundational blueprint used to build almost every modern computer, the von Neumann architecture. This diagram outlines how that architecture works. A computer is physically split into two distinct parts: a central processing unit, where math happens, and a completely separate memory unit where data is stored. To run an AI model, the system must continuously shuttle massive amounts of data back and forth between those two blocks. It's this constant commute that creates the bottleneck. Physically moving the data takes significantly more time and electricity than the actual computation itself, and that friction generates extreme amounts of heat. Because of this structural flaw, throwing more servers at the problem only multiplies the power waste. The hardware itself requires a complete redesign from the ground up. On April 2026, researchers at the University of Cambridge published a study in Science Advances, detailing a highly efficient way around this problem. Their team engineered what is known as a neuromorphic chip. Instead of using the old separated layout, this hardware is specifically designed to bypass the data commute entirely. It relies on a process called in-memory computing. In this setup, the exact same physical location is used to process the data and store the data at the same time. If processing and storing information in the exact same place sounds familiar, it's because it closely mirrors the biological architecture of the human brain, where neurons and synapses handle both tasks simultaneously. By mimicking that unified biological structure, the chip completely eliminates the energy-draining data shuttle that holds traditional processors back. To build a component that acts like a biological synapse, the researchers took a thin film of hafnium oxide and modified it with precise amounts of strontium and titanium. This animation highlights a cross-section of the new material, which acts as a highly stable memristor, or memory resistor. Older memristors relied on microscopic filaments that broke down easily, but this device switches states using a highly uniform interfacial mechanism. That stability creates extreme efficiency. The switching current drops to 1 million times lower than conventional oxide devices. We're looking at an energy cost per update measuring between roughly 2.5 picojoules and 45 femtojoules, an incredibly small fraction of a single watt. And unlike a standard digital transistor that only reads rigid zeros and ones, this device can hold over 100 distinct conductance levels. It computes in analog. It even exhibits synaptic plasticity. Much like a living brain, the chip can physically adapt and strengthen its own connections to learn from new information. We are moving from a rigid system of binary data shuttling to fluid, highly efficient analog computation. When you scale those microscopic efficiencies up to the size of a functioning system, you get a direct 70. There is still a primary engineering roadblock to clear before these chips are ready for mass commercial production: the temperature issue. For the modified hafnium oxide to be viable, researchers need to prove its material performance remains perfectly consistent, whether the chip is running in a freezing garage or a hot server rack. With global energy grids maxing out under current demands, the pressure is on. The question is whether tech giants will endure the wait to adopt this biological architecture or push standard GPUs to the breaking point.